We have 9 passenger transport electric bus charging locations. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the committee. So I'll take this report as read, but I'll just briefly describe the key dynamics of it. So it follows on from a report to this committee back in April, where we introduced the, I guess, the concept and the opportunity for the extended passenger transport services and electric bus fleet. And so now, following that committee meeting, we've gone further and we've actually looked at all the land opportunities in detail. And we've identified, so we need land in both towns, both in Te Murakeke and Cambridge. And the reason for the land is so we're going to do overnight charging for up to 4 buses per town. And that makes the bus technology and battery size a really easy thing to procure. Yeah, and again, this is working in partnership with the Waikato Regional Council. They're on board. So yeah, I guess I'll take any questions. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Roger.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this is a really great move, Eric. A couple of questions, I think, in support of it. And one question is, it's focused on charging buses, and that normally happens basically overnight. Is there possibilities that there could be some use by some commercial interests that are looking for charging facilities from the private sector?
Theoretically, yes, but I think in practice, probably not.
Probably not.
We haven't flushed this out fully with the Regional Council, and I guess they'll have a contractor on board in about 6 to 9 months, but they will likely want exclusive access with a gate and a fence.
All right, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Lou, sorry. Yeah.
Follow on with Councillor Gordon's statement, would they look at utilising them for school buses and things like that as an integral period of time, like integrate them as well, so that you get your normal transport during the daytime, perhaps using that sort of thing.
Through Chair, nothing planned, Lou. So the Ministry of Education runs the school buses, and it's a completely separate contract. And they tend to use the older fleet. So yeah.
Bill?
Thanks for your report. I wondered whether the Kihiki stock car track had been considered at all. Kihiki being the last stop, I would suspect, going south. It is already fenced, securely fenced, has power. And I noted that this contract was for may not continue on. And I wondered about expending between $300,000 and $500,000 when possibly it was possible to use something that might already exist, that the council has a direct say over.
Through the Chair, so when we looked at the sites, I guess, for evaluation, we were, I guess, careful to not consider reserve sites, like as in council reserves. So that's a Kiki domain, I think, by the Speedway and Rodeo. Yeah. So I guess we didn't consider those fully at the start because of the use of those lanes. But a lot of the costings would still be required on that site. And then we're dealing with other stakeholders who currently use it. So I don't think there'll be a significant, if any, cost difference.
But Eric, you were looking not to be in conflict with other users close by. Is that what you were talking about? Yeah, I could see the point in there.
Yeah, I think we took care to not even really consider any reserve land, like particularly in Cambridge, like there's lots of town belt, but we thought, no, we're not going to go there.
Yeah.
And then I guess in the same philosophy, the Kiki domain.
Yeah. Just to compliment you on the report, because it must have been 7 or 8 months ago when you had to talk to me about various sites, and what you've done here, I think, is really, really good. So yeah, it's yeah, proven to be
Sorry.
good. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, just a supplementary, really. Given that the proposals for the cycleway were to go to Kihiki School, I did wonder about the connectivity and utilising the space down there. And yeah, maybe reserves was off the list, but I don't quite understand why there might not have been a discussion with the users.
Through the chair, I guess point taken, but I guess in the optioneering, the site on Havelock Street in Kiki, which is recommended in this report, is almost as close to the start point of the Kiki run, or which is the Kiki 2-metre run to Hamilton. So the location has more or less exactly the same benefits, and that site is surplus for council. So that's the old dog pound site on Havelock Street. So subject to some process, there was no conflict with other users.
Good stuff. Yeah.
So it's just that if it was being earmarked for surplus and on sale, if we've done these alterations to it, then obviously those alterations will either be lost if it is on sold. So you could argue to some extent that the council is a user.
Oh God. Current user.
Yep.
Yes. Yes. So the current user, yeah, I guess for Havelock Street, the dog pound will be relocated to Cambridge, as I understand it. But we can build behind the current pound facility without affecting it. And as I understand it, the only lost opportunity is potential sale for some of that land.
Yeah, I had additional thoughts, and my additional thoughts there were that the Kiki Showgrounds is used for events. Buses going to events are obviously useful things to have, saving on emissions in terms of people getting in their own cars and driving there as well. So yeah, I don't know who determined the option, but I would have thought that was an option that should have been more closely considered.
I did notice that there was a great amount of work done to make sure that you were central to you weren't 2 k's away from the start of the routes and whatever. That would have applied in Kiki as well, wouldn't it? And where you plan to put it.
Yes, that was so because Kiki is the start and finish of what will be for the new contract for the 2-metre run. But both the Kiki Domain and Havelock Street have got similar attributes for proximity. Yeah. But what I would say is so this is just purely an off-site charging location. It doesn't affect where the bus stops go and how the users use the buses.
Yeah,
it's purely some land around the back somewhere that's used to charge
the bus. Yeah. And the bus will go and start where it needs to start and finish where it needs to finish.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Claire, please.
Thanks, Eric. I had a question about the people that are going to tender for these contracts, because I noticed on page 3 of your report, or page 131, that 4th bullet point above the heading for point number 5, it says some operators have signalled tendering for contracts without existing depot options doesn't align with their strategy. So does that mean that we're not actually going to get some people tendering for this because they haven't, I suppose, adjusted to this change in policy? I was just concerned that we might not get that much interest shown in this new way of operating.
Through the chair, so it's actually the opposite. So what we're trying to communicate in that bullet point is that if we don't, so I guess the principles of the contract being the regional council, they don't have land available for overnight charging, then there'll be bus contractors that won't be interested. Yeah. Yeah. So what we're doing, we're optimising the pool of tenderers.
You have a question, Mike?
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. Eric, just that Cambridge one, Cambridge Road 3853, is there room, if this expands beyond 4, the need for 4 charging points, just looking at that space in there, is there room to expand out and buy a bit more land there if required? If this, becomes, we need 8 buses there or 6 buses down the track, how much space is there? Because it's noted that there's also for camper vans and that sort of thing, and I don't know where those facilities are. But I'm just looking at the size of those cars. Is there ample space there for growth, or is it just for the 4 buses type thing?
So the trickiest part of that site is it is shared by the camper van waste disposal, and that's just to the left. And there's a little comment in the appendix on the track and curves diagram. It's described as a public dump station. So this shows how we can park 4 buses, a charger, and then it's all the reversing and driving forward, manoeuvring can be achieved. But yeah, the initial thinking from the regional council is that, so they've said we need room for up to 4 buses. There might be, in the Hamilton Transport Centre, they might have 1 bus overnight there. But that's subject to, I guess, further design of the network. So I think 4 buses will meet all our aspirations for frequency and duration of services. But if other users are contemplated, this site will probably, then the consideration of adjacent land purchase would have to be thought about. But yeah.
Thank you. Marcus?
How does this work with the new announcements that was made on Monday about councils being able to do our own public transport and stuff like that? Like, is this future thinking for us? Yeah, I don't know. We'll still throw that in.
Yeah,
Marcus, can you use your microphone, please?
I did, but I will move it closer.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Basically, I just said, like, the announcement on Monday that councils can do public transport, like, where does that fit in with that?
Yeah, through the chair, so I wasn't aware of that announcement, but I think even if that was depending on the detail, I think the regional council is still best placed to provide these services. Yeah. So nothing would change.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, there's A, B, C, and D. If Mike, happy to move. Thank you, Mike. And Liz, second. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thanks so much, Eric. Great morning. Tab 10 is the Community Services Quarterly Report. Welcome along, Brad. You've been sitting there patiently, Brad. Thank you. Good to see you.
Morena tātou, te he Māori ora kia koutou katoa. This morning, I'll share a few highlights from the last quarter to the end of June. And then if it's all right with you, I'll take all the questions at the end instead of going through each piece. So the final costs for Cyclone Dovi and other storm events ended up being relatively about double what was originally budgeted. These severe weather events came after a few years of no big weather events, so more unforeseeable damage occurred than what we might normally expect at the time of year. As noted in my previous quarterly report update, we were ahead of schedule at the time, and so we were able to reduce the program in line with the contract availability due to COVID and illnesses to ensure that we remained within the overall budget, and we also pushed out some of the low priority work into the new financial year as well. But no overall level of service was impacted through that process.
Brad, when I went around and had a look, I just wanted to mention it was the same just outside Lukenoir. A lot of the trees that are going over don't have a massive root structure. They sort of seem to be, very surface orientated. And you can just see it when they go over. You think, well, you're going to have a huge big stump, but there's none. It's just, amazing. Is it the type of tree or do you know?
No, I think most of what we've seen is the root systems have actually been relatively healthy. Well, they are healthy.
Yeah.
It's just that just some of the big events that we have had have just been so phenomenal and quite localized as well.
Yeah.
So it's just just rip trees from the ground, healthy trees from the ground.
Yeah, because I see you've planted 133, and so the question is, are they more resilient to those than other trees, and I don't know anything about them.
Yeah, so when we do plant now, we are making sure we get the right tree in the right spot.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, Cambridge's got some nice, really wide berm, so we're not concerned from that.
Yeah,
point
yeah,
at all.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Vandalism and graffiti has continued to plague our parks and the toilets. Graffiti has got significantly worse still, and it's progressed from the small word here or there, or the small bit of artwork, to sort of full wall coverage, both inside and outside of the facilities. It's at a point where the remedial work is beyond the capacity and ability of our maintenance cleaners, and so we're bringing in specialist contractors to undertake this work for us.
Sorry, Brad. I'm just wondering, has a study been made on types of graffiti? Like, because we've got down at the skate park the wrap around it, like the painting and stuff by local artists, and then the toilet blocks look really good. If we paint more of our toilet blocks or get local artists to do mural on and stuff like that, does that reduce the amount of graffiti, or it doesn't reduce the amount of graffiti? Because the ones at Kaniwhaniwhara as well have been like nicely done too. Do they get abused as much or less?
So anecdotally, we don't have any hard data that suggests that, but we do know that generally where there's artwork or things like that, it does reduce the occurrences of vandalism or graffiti. And so we do that. And often when we put those wraps on, we put an anti-graffiti gun on that, so it's a lot easier to clean up as well. Some of the other pieces of material like bricks and timber, that's quite hard to either paint or to get cleaned off. So that's some of our challenges, but certainly artwork does tend to have a reducing factor on graffiti.
Could this be something that we look at for our toilets out in areas, like having local artists come together? I'm sure it'd be quite an easy project to put together with local groups to take ownership of the toilet blocks and produce art. And if they look good, then that might stop and reduce the cost to us for the vandalism.
Yeah, it's certainly an option going forward. And for our new facilities, we're definitely trying to do that. Yeah. There's a new toilet block that's just going in or has gone in at the Hicks Road by the Mongatouturi Marae there. We've put a wrap very similar to the Kaniwhaniwhara, for example, up there as well. So yeah, the most significant vandalism and graffiti has been reported to police, but we have not heard of anyone being held to account apart from the recent damage we occurred at Hautapu Cemetery. The implementation of the Te Amiru War Memorial Park and Lake Te Kutu concept plans are commencing. Just to make a note, the project identified in my report under the Te Amiru War Memorial Park section unfortunately contains some errors. I do appreciate the feedback we received on this to highlight those. It shouldn't include the stone wall or gateway threshold projects. And so what I'll do is I'll send out in the Friday mail out an update just to what the agreed actual plan of attack is there. We're going to be working with the relevant partners and stakeholders to progress the projects set out in the action plan moving forward. And some further good news that we've had, the Te Amiru Museum team has had a couple of really good successes. They were elated to receive the Gold Coalmark Award, where a lot of their mahi to put the application together has resulted in that achievement, which highlights the high quality experience that they have there, which is awesome. And they also had good success in securing all the funding that they sought from the Ministry of Education to continue providing an enriching local curriculum program for schools and early childhood centres. So the funding was highly sought after, so and it was well prescribed. So it's awesome that we were able to receive our full amount that we were looking for. I'm happy to take any further questions on my report.
Yeah, thanks. Is the Lake Te Kutu track completed, Brad? You just said it's booked for July. Has it been done?
I don't think it was closed. I think it's just routine maintenance.
Yeah, it's closed for a while. It had
Okay.
tape up the top, and no entry or whatever. I'm just going to have a look.
Yeah, so no, I'm not aware of the latest on that one, but
That's all right. Clear.
Yeah, excellent report. Thanks, Brad, and really appreciate all the hard work that you and the team are doing for us. Just a few things. Just on what Councillor Garrow mentioned about artwork around public facilities like toilets and that. At our last LTP, one of my suggestions that was adopted was about the new capital works, for public facilities, that a 1% of the capital cost be devoted to placemaking, which would be art and that kind of thing. Yes, I don't know whether, I know that has gone through, but not much has been done about it. But I think Kirsty might have been sort of looking into that. I don't know, that might be a way to get it funded. I don't know. Yeah. I'm looking at the Timutu skate park and the progress that's been made there. It's absolutely amazing. Have you got an idea of a likely opening date for that yet?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor St-Pierre. It's getting really close. So we're looking at an event in September. So we'll be we're just putting that together at the moment, and then we'll release that date for everyone to come along and celebrate with us, because it's going to be a great event. It includes the parkour and the play elements there as well. So we want to do it all at once.
Yeah.
There'll be a soft launch. I mean, it'll open to the public before the celebration event.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, I just wish I could skate.
cards.
Yeah. Okay. And then
Never.
lastly, the 205 Sainsbury Road implementation. So I know that there is a plan to have a meeting, and I have been appointed to it, but I haven't heard anything about a date. And of that first meeting, and I also noticed that Ruth Webb, who is with the Pirongia Community Association, who's probably likely to be on it as well, she hasn't been informed either. Yeah. Do you know what's happening there?
So I know the documentation's been pulled together in the background, and so we're getting pretty close to that. So I'll find out and touch base with you, or I'll get them to touch base with you.
Yeah, cool. And just lastly, on the dog poo bins, it came up in our growth report with the strategic planning and policy meeting last week. That there've been a lot of reports of them not being emptied or needing to be emptied. Like, do you know what's happening there? Like, are people walking their dogs a lot more or something? I don't know. Like in Pirongia, for instance, yeah, there was an issue with the doggy container being absolutely overflowing and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure on that one. Carl Tate's team from Animal Control look after those bins, but I'll follow up with him just to see what's going on.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, through you, Graham. Just quickly, just following on from that comment around art on some of our toilet blocks and things, might pay potentially to approach Enrich. They have quite a depth of disabled artists who do some fantastic work, and other community groups, including the Te Awamutu Rosebank Art House. So just throwing those names in there, perhaps if there is to be any work done in that space, they'd be quite a cool place to start or include in those discussions.
Thanks, Susan. Lou, then Liz,
Thank you, through Chair.
then
Just a
Jim,
quick-
and then Mike.
Okay.
I'm
Just
just
a
getting an
quick,
order.
notification of cemeteries. With the, as I say, the cemetery up here, particularly in Te Awamutu, there has been a genuine trend for full body burials, which we thought were going to revert to ash interments, but it has been there. So we will have to perhaps cooperate with each other a little bit with our new plan, and accept that some of our areas are going to be a little bit limited, particularly with, I'm talking memorial areas, which we have. So it's something to consider. The other thing I was very, very positive about is the actual increase of numbers of the doggy refuse bins around. That is great. It's a big thing. I think we've seen our dog population actually increase quite significantly since COVID. And I think the utilisation of those is very important. Although you're, as Councillor St-Pierre said, we do have one or two that are full at the time. If we have more of them, perhaps they won't be quite so full.
Elizabeth.
Thank you, Graham. Hey, Brad, just at the beginning of your report under community facilities, there's the rural open space contract. I'm wondering if we can just rename that for next time, because I'm not sure that for readers, the general public, understand what that is. What is it? As it could be rubbish bins, it could be mowing. I was thinking it was one of the two.
Yeah, so it encompasses quite a lot. So all of that really. So anything on open spaces, it has incorporated that. So at the moment, we're doing a Section 17A review. There is a notes in the report to look at the best delivery model of that, whether it be in-house partnership model or the status quo of contracting out. And certainly can take on that feedback. Yeah, essentially we've got our own parks team that do the urban areas. So everything that falls outside of their remit is what this contract encapsulates.
Yeah, no, that's it. Was just the naming of it. I just thought, yeah, could probably. Hey, really pleased to see Lake Takutu featuring and obviously planning and moving to the, starting to see some of the concept plans come to life, which is great. The only other thing I wanted to mention was Lake Naroto. I guess I have, at a very much a grassroots people level, people talking to me about the length of time that it is now being closed. And I appreciate lots of rainfall, appreciate it's winter time, but the unofficial kind of grapevine is telling me, I guess, that perhaps we haven't got the where or the some of the good work that I thought we had done quite right around managing water flow. And I would at some point just like some explanation as to would we expect to see this level of closure again next winter? Because it has been quite a long time, longer than we've ever seen it closed before. So I'm just interested as to whether this is going to be a regular thing, or do you think we have the right system and the right equipment in place to be managing those water levels?
Yeah, thanks. The water levels are something I can't comment on today without the detail behind it. The issue was trying to get contractors into the floating boardwalk to get that back up and running. It's just been too unsafe to have contractors in the water, and there's quite a limited number of contractors willing to do that work as well. So that is looking to be finished by the end of this week, all going to plan. So that should be open hopefully by the end of this week, fingers crossed.
But it's actually open, because I walked it last weekend. You're going to have gum boots. I didn't go on the flowing boardway, but you can walk, you can walk around anti-clockwise and walk back. But like, I think it's just the amount of water there. I mean, there is a lot of water, and the weir is working, but man, it's just pumping. Like, yeah, and I think, as long as you take your gum boots or whatever, like we had a good time.
Well, July was a record rainfall, and I think the ground's been recharged, so everything's, yeah. Okay. Bill, did you have a question? Yeah.
Just a couple of comments, if it's all right.
Yeah.
First, to acknowledge the Heritage Trust funding for the Kahatu on Rangiawhia Road, and the work that was done by a number of my Ngāti Apakura committee in terms of getting that looking pristine, really. And I know that it was reported on, so I just wanted to acknowledge the funding that was received for that. The second thing was to get a bit of an understanding, is the Citizens Memorial Park Maintenance Committee a Citizens one, or is it a Waipa District one? And I know Lou mentioned it earlier, and I just was wondering what sort of a committee it was. And I may know, but I just thought it was, I just wanted to be clear about that. And the other one I wanted to give a big thumbs up to was the Peka Peka Alliance in terms of the bats. We're busily looking to develop, especially here in the Waipa areas where the bats are being restricted, which is presently part of their habitat. So I just wanted to give a big thumbs up to the Waikato Regional and our support to the Bat Alliance, or the Peka Peka Alliance.
Lou, can you answer Bill's question?
I certainly can ask her to Bill. The situation is that the War Memorial Maintenance Committee is a self-appointed committee under the chairmanship of Craig Smart. So he is actually unfortunately out of the country at the minute, but most of these people have self-appointed, not elected or anything, and they've taken on a role of monitoring what goes on at the park. From the RSA point of view, we will talk to them, but we actually are, as I've said to Brad, that we want to cooperate and work with everybody under the auspices that this to us is a vital asset to the RSA and to yourselves. So we know that and work together collectively. However, they often go off on their own tangents. And so what we're trying to do is trying to cooperate and work them. But they are, as I say, a collective. I don't think they have any structure as such. I don't know whether they even have a committee now.
That's right. If I go into the chair, they're not a formalised group. They don't have a set criteria or agenda as such. They're an interest group, and they do look to support our parks team where they can with some maintenance things that they can do safely. So it's our task to work along closely with them to make sure that it's in line with our concept plan, but also with some of the stuff that they're looking to do as well.
Michael.
Thanks through the chair. I just got a few things here actually, just to support the artwork concepts and what Susan said. There's some groups around town or around the district, but the community boards, that might be because they're connected in town and out in the rural areas. might be an idea to, that it might be a project they could take up with some funding because they've got networks, which might save your folks some work as well. Just had a couple of people come up to me in the community around the trees in Cambridge and just, them falling over and that sort of thing. And back in the day where the correct trees planted, and sort of made a comment, well, we're not taking the trees out, but just with replacement, you sort of covered it that the correct trees with maybe deeper root structures or whatever are obviously going in. So it's something you're thinking about. So I can take that back to those folks. In the report here on page 176, and it's just got about, there's a graph there under question 6. And 30% of folks have stated that, and I assume it says, I could not find the item, which, I couldn't find the book, etc. Which is why did you not get you were looking for? And just maybe a cheap way of trying to fix it is just some signage around, hey, can't find it, we're here to help, or something along those lines, rather than possibly, I don't know whether people have walked out or not, but just a cheap remedy there to try and eliminate some of that 30%. The library patronage, and I guess this is looking forward to the next LTP, and I keep sort of harping on about this, but this whole report really shows a massive increase in patronage across the board of users of the Cambridge Library, which is fantastic. But it does, it does back the case that Cambridge needs something more than it's got, because the patronage is actually going through the roof across the board here. So it's positive. And my last thing is, there's a new storyboard, I think, at the back of the Lakeview Shopping Centre around Lake Takutu, for Lake Takutu. Maybe I'm wrong.
There was one that was applied for through the Heritage Fund recently.
Yeah.
So they've been notified of that decision. I don't know if it's been relayed yet.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So there was some talk, there has been talk through the community board and council about just increasing the signage and telling the story around that lake. And I guess just finding out where that's sort of at. And on the back of that, Ngāti Kōriki Kahukura have got basically the story of that lake and the story of the importance of it and how it came into being. I think on the 16th of September. I'm not sure it's just for schools or whatever, but I know there's a lot of people going, but it would just be nice for something to come off the back of it. So really just wondering how those storyboards, in terms of a history, particularly the iwi history, is progressing.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Pittard. That will be largely underdone as part of the concept plan implementation work. So we'll be picking that for that time.
Thanks, Brad. Anything else? All right, we have a recommendation there to receive the report from 30th of June. Mover and seconder, please. Bill, thank you. Lou, seconded, thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Thanks, Brad. Tab 11, we've got some temporary road closures. Hi, Julie. Nice to see you.
The first one we've got this morning is the Tupataki o Te Riri national commemorations of the Maryland Wars. There has been a slight change to that. It was the same report that had gone through last year when it got called off due to COVID restrictions. But just last week we heard from organisers they're not going to do the Rangiaowhia section of that. So the only closure will be Orako and Narapuni Road.
Okay.
So there's an amendment to the recommendations on that one.
Yeah, I'll just get Kieran to put it up. It's a long way away from me. Okay, that look all right, Julie? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Marcus, thanks, Bruce. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you.
Okay, and our second one is a new event being organised by the Te Awamutu Chamber of Commerce called the Black Friday Blowout, based on the
That's bad,
American-
that's bad naming. I looked at it and I thought, what's going on here? Yes.
You weren't alone. They're basing it on the American Black Friday sales on the
Yeah, I
25th of
figured that.
November, which, that's their choice, I guess.
Yeah,
But it's a new one. They're going to be closing off Alexandra Street and trying to get people into the retail centre pre-Christmas and have a
Okay.
bit of a community feel, events for kids, rides, a bit of music and things like that.
Luke,
I think this is a great idea. I was actually in Greytown just recently and they just blocked up, they had a mid-year Christmas. And it was absolutely amazing. They just closed all the streets and the retail people were telling us that they had a marvelous response of people just walking around, walking into retail outlets and just looking around. And it really did. And we had a crowd of, I'd say in the thousands, just walking up and down the street, looking at the various displays, etc. So I would support this. I think it's a great idea.
so no, and then no changes on that one at all, Julie? It's
No, that's
good to
as
go.
is, yep.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, Lou. Seconder, please. Thank you, Andrew. All those say aye. Against, carried. Thank you very much. We move to tab 13, which is contract signed under delegation. It's only for, yep. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, these are, as the chair alluded to, contracts that have been awarded where staff have exercised delegations in terms of the awarding of them. Welcome any questions if there are any arising.
There to the water. Cool.
Happy to move your chair.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Andrew. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Okay, we're going to resolution to exclude the public. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Claire. All those in